Hi, Ms. Wagner here. In this video, we are going to learn how to reflect a figure over the x-axis. Now, the simplest form of reflecting something is to take each point, and remember in the previous video, I had talked about how the distance to the line of reflection is how far the point has to go across the line of reflection. So even though it is 2 squares equals 1, because if this is 2, this would be 3, this would be 4. Even though that's the case, I could just count squares, 1, 2, 1, 2. So my B prime point would be at 3, 1. Since that is one method of doing it, and like for instance, the C point, I would say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. That's a lot of work. So luckily, with 4 out of the 6 reflections that you have to do, there are some simple rules you can follow. And we will go over a rule sheet at the end of the videos. The last video Ms. Swissman is going to do is going to talk about the rules of all of the reflections we have rules for. So the x-axis does have a rule. If I'm going across the x-axis, all I have to do is change the y value, because notice I stayed in the x value that I was at, and my -1 is going to become a +1. So let's get to it and use the rule and reflect over the x-axis. So the directions say graph the line of reflection. Well, we've already discussed the line of reflection is the x-axis. So I have to make the x-axis, and I can't type in x-axis. That isn't a thing. It gives me this warning symbol. So I can't just type in the, oh, I didn't type in the x-axis, x-axis. I can't just type that in because it doesn't recognize that. But if I type in x equals 0, it gives me an axis. It just gives me the wrong axis. So even though I think x goes with x, that's incorrect. X goes with the y-axis. So x equals 0 is the y-axis. So thinking like I should think in math class, if I erase this and I type in y equals 0, now I have a green line here for the y equals 0, which is the x-axis. Now I'm supposed to type in the points of the image. So remember I said if I'm going across the x-axis, the rule is that the y coordinate changes. So if I want to make the point A prime, which is 2, -4, I would type in 2, 4, and then I can click on label that, and I can type in A prime. So now my A prime point is up here. If I were to count the squares, it's 8 squares to there and 8 squares to there. So I put it in the right spot. B is at 3, -1. So I can type in 3, +1. And I can label that with B prime. Now remember, prime is the apostrophe. And then I can do the same thing with C. C is at 4, -3, so it is going to become 4, +3. And I can label that C prime. So as you can see, if I have to do over the x-axis, the y value changes. That is all you have to do to find the points of the reflection. You find the point you have, change the y value, keep the x value the same. Now on the next screen, you are going to do a U-try of this exact reflection.